Hello, I'm the Trek Lad, arbiter of good Star Trek, and this is my review of the first season episode of Star Trek The Original Series, The Alternative Factor. In this episode, the Enterprise, while in orbit of a dead planet, is rocked by a mysterious energy pulse, a disturbance so powerful it briefly affects the entire galaxy. Investigating on the planet's surface, Kirk and his crew encounter a strange and dishevelled man named Lazarus, who claims to be locked in a battle with his evil double, a being from an alternate antimatter universe. As the crew race to uncover the truth behind Lazarus's wild story, they find themselves caught in the middle of his increasingly dangerous conflict, a fight to the death between two versions of the same man that now threatens to tear both realities apart. So this might surprise you, but I don't hate this episode. There are nuggets here, little tiny bits of promise that I think make this episode worth checking out. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still mostly shit, but I don't think it's a complete and total disaster. What makes this episode worth your time is its concept. This is essentially a parallel universe episode, a very early stab at the concept, almost a prototype for what we'd get in a few episodes' time with Season 2's iconic Mirror Mirror, an episode which on its own launched this entire saga spanning several decades across multiple shows. It's another example of Trek being way ahead of its time. Nowadays, it seems every media franchise has to have some sort of multiverse. The MCU, mostly floundering post-Endgame, has experienced mixed results porting over its multiple Earths comic series to the big screen. There's also Everything Everywhere All at Once, the wild multiverse film that won Michelle Yeoh an Oscar, a huge career achievement she seems more than happy to follow with appearances in terrible Star Trek streaming movies. Let's not go there. And modern Trek has gotten in on the act too, because of course it would, with the final season of Lower Decks teasing future adventures across its own multiverse, almost in the same way Deep Space Nine used the wormhole to open up the rest of the galaxy. Here the parallel universes concept is pretty simple. We have two universes, one made of matter, the other made of antimatter. And at the heart of this we have a man, Lazarus, who has somehow come into contact with his alternate self, an unlikely encounter that has driven one of them more than a bit loopy. The idea is that if these two versions ever come into contact, both universes will be destroyed. Come to think of it, it's a very Back to the Future Part 2, don't meet your past self or the universe might explode kind of thing. I really like the late reveal that the evil version of Lazarus isn't the one from the antimatter universe, but is actually our version that's gone mad. It's not the other that's the threat, it's us. Oh dear. I know this is a word that gets thrown around a lot these days, probably too much, but it's a twist that subverts expectations. It's a very Trekkian idea that encourages us not to leap to conclusions and not trust our natural biases. When watching the episode, I get the feeling that the episode is trying to tap into some deeper ideas. Man as his own worst enemy, the internal struggle, man's inhumanity to man. Now, none of these are explored in any obvious way, and perhaps I'm just reading too much into this episode. It definitely wouldn't be the first time, and it won't be the last, let me tell you. But I guess the whole point of Star Trek is it gives us these little seeds of thought and encourages us to go and think about things a bit more. And if that's an interpretation of Trek that you subscribe to, I think that this episode does that pretty well. Way more obvious with its intentions, however, is the episode's resolution, where the antimatter Lazarus willingly sacrifices himself, trapping himself in the interdimensional corridor with his other self, sealing the breach and saving both universes, but condemning both Lazaruses to an eternity of endless combat. What a brutal fate this is. One man fighting himself for literal ever. It's proper bleak existential horror done very well. A bleak ending, but a memorable one, nicely underlined by the episode's final scene, showing Kirk struggling to come to terms with the idea, just as we are. It's a solid idea that's executed well, and like I said, it's the best thing about the episode. Everything else, though, is not good. The Lazarus character is a mixed bag. Playing the character, Robert Brown is okay, I guess. It's a difficult part, to be fair. He's playing both versions of the same man, and that's not easy to sell, especially when the script isn't really giving him much to work with. I think it's telling, though, that I don't remember much about the performance, aside from the beard. You knew I was going to bring up the beard. It's a mess, isn't it? It's wildly inconsistent in length and thickness, not only from scene to scene, but shot to shot. Was this intentional? Another way to differentiate the two different versions? I don't think so. They already had the head bandage for that. No, I think that this is just sloppy work that stands out way more now thanks to HD remasters. The biggest problem that I have with the Lazarus character, though, is that it's never really clear why Lazarus is the guy this is happening to. Who is this guy, and why is it him that's trapped in this insane forever battle with himself? The episode later on throws in the revelation that he's a time traveler, but this doesn't go anywhere, and just kind of feels like the episode was throwing extra stuff at us for no good reason. A quick explanation would have really helped here. Maybe Lazarus was a research scientist leading the development of a new form of starship propulsion who accidentally in the process got quantum leaped into this alternative reality. This actually could have also linked the episode's use of matter and antimatter, a concept this episode introduces to Trek that would ultimately help explain the science behind warp drive. But by far the biggest issue that I have with this episode is its presentation. First, we have the rubbish stock image of a nebula that just gets superimposed on screen whenever there's a tremor or there's a switch between universes. It looks rubbish, even by the standards of the time. Then there's the corridor between universes stuff, where we get this bizarre spinning transition effect whenever the Lazaruses do whatever it is they keep doing. It's similar to the spinning newspaper effect that we always saw in old movies. The people who made this episode sure love that effect. And then, oof, there's the fight scenes in the corridor. Awful. Absolutely laughable stuff. Two fluorescent men having the sloppiest wrestling match you've ever seen in slow motion. And the episode keeps giving us this visual over and over and over again. Why? It's almost as if someone came up with this effect, thought it was the coolest thing ever, and then decided to reverse engineer an entire episode around it. It's stylish, yeah, but the style is fucking shit. I also think Vasquez Rocks gets wasted here, which should pretty much be a crime. All we get is Kirk and a couple of red shirts just casually jogging around pretending to be busy. It's badly blocked, and it doesn't really add anything to the episode. A total waste, which, considering the expense of on-location shooting, feels like a really poor production choice. Another thing that annoyed me here, and I'm running the risk of getting a little mean now, is the performances of some of the background actors. Now, this kind of stuff was never the best, but here, some of this just really stands out as being egregiously poor. Maybe the best example of this are the security guards that stand around kind of awkwardly while Kirk fights Lazarus. At one point, you can clearly see one of them struggling not to smile. Doesn't exactly sell us on the stakes and the intensity of the moment, does it? And then there's the navigator on the bridge. Man, this guy looks bored out of his mind. Never mind a crisis that could spell the end not only of life as we know it, but the entire universe. This guy looks like he's done for the day. He looks like he's ready to clock off. Now, I go to a few sci-fi conventions in the UK, and one of them loves booking the surviving background actors from the original series. I'm one of those guys that loves meeting them. One, because their queues are always the shortest, and despite being a Brit, I absolutely hate queuing for anything. And two, because it's just nice to connect with people that were a part of this classic show that I love so much, and on a wider level, a golden era of not just entertainment, but culture. I hope that I can get the chance to meet this navigator. He's probably dead, and I should have probably checked beforehand, but I'm not going to. But if I do get the chance to meet him, if he's not dead, I'd love to just be able to shake his hand, just to tell him that he is simultaneously the best and the worst thing about this whole episode. So, the alternative factor. There are some interesting ideas here. In fact, with a better script, better production choices, and less spinning nebula shit, I think this could be remade into something pretty decent. Strange New Worlds would be a perfect vehicle for that. The bones of a great episode are here. But for now, what we have here is an episode that is very much style over substance, and let's be honest, that style isn't very good. Like I said earlier, I don't think this is a total dud. It's one of the weaker episodes of the series for sure, but it does have its moments, and for that reason, I'm giving the alternative factor a 4 out of 10. It's closer to a 5 than a 3. But what did you think of this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? How would you rate it? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more Star Trek reviews, and until next time, live long and prosper.